All right, let's. Well, I want to keep. Well, if you want to take a break on Cignetti, we could talk about spring game takeaways. If you just want to keep rolling, I'll jump right into his presser.
Hey, you're driving the bus. All right.
I'm driving the bus. Let's keep talking about Cignetti.
Yeah.
Obviously, the spring's over. We got no Fisher, no Surratt for the spring game. Sig gave reasons as they may have tweaked their knees in practice, nothing to be alarmed about. Obviously, just held them out for precautionary reasons. That's also obviously where we got the Mekhi Jackson hamstring news after practice for significant, again, in the fact that this happened a while ago and nobody said anything. The other note I have here, or I didn't write it down, but just mentally, Amarion Knighton was on crutches during the spring game, and I don't believe anybody followed up on that at all. So I don't know if that was like a precautionary thing or what's going on there. But if anybody's seen anything or heard anything, like I haven't on Knighton on crutches, and it wasn't asked about. Something that was odd. They asked or they kind of talked about roster construction and how he feels about the roster. He said we don't really have any holes. But he's obviously not going to say what they're looking for. And then a few seconds later, that went on to talk about how he feels like they need more linebacker depth. But like we just talked about, they went and added 2 edge guys in the portal. So obviously they were feeling like they needed more on the defensive line. That puts them at 80 scholarships now?
Jamie, how many scholarships are they at?
But he said they're not deficient in any area either. So he really likes the spot, but the bulk of the roster is in it as a whole. They asked him about today versus last year. They said a lot of the pieces that they need are already in the room. So it's really just about playing up to potential. Talked about Fernando Mendoza. Said he was really good last week and not including the spring game because he hadn't had the chance to go through the film yet. But talked about in the most recent scrimmage before the spring game, talked about him taking a step. And like we'll get to Mendoza in a little bit. We didn't get to see really much from the spring game, but there was one throw to Holden Stays got out on Instagram, and obviously the Indiana accounts on Instagram posted the Omar Cooper touchdown, and I think both Omar Cooper touchdowns actually. So he did get to see him operate a little bit. He also said went out of his way to say Alberto had a really good spring too. I think that was actually evident by the fact that Alberto Mendoza was the QB2 in the spring game. Did that surprise you?
Yes. Very much so. Grant Wilson was brought in to be the QB2. Looks like Alberto beat him out. So it looks like he's QB3. Alberto's QB2. That's how I'll see the QB depth chart moving forward. Things could change in fall. That's a very, very open gate position is the backup quarterback. It's really like who has the hot hand in practice, damn near. But I mean, if Mendoza can stack weeks, stack days, he's sounds like he's in the driver's seat. So good for him. It looks like, we got the brothers Mendoza. They have the keys to the program for the next 2 years of Mendoza. How many years of Alberto do we have left? We probably have 4 years of Alberto left. So 4 years of Mendoza brothers for IU football. Exciting stuff. We'll see if that, comes to fruition or not. For Goom. Should we answer Mark?
Yeah, you want to answer that? Go ahead.
Yeah, for Gim, need a throwback story. Lee Corso recently retired. What's one lasting memory or lesson from his time at IU that you think resonates with the program today? Oh, from his time at IU. I think the biggest thing, honestly, like there wasn't a ton of success, and we talk about the post Cignetti era and how that's how we can kind of think of IU football, and that's what we kind of want the perception to be, is just like, hey, this is the new Indiana football. So I think the most impactful thing that Lee Corso did was be at having game day at Indiana with Lee in what is his last season. It is just huge for, acknowledging, because we have to acknowledge the history. Obviously, you can't move forward without acknowledging, right? Like that's how it goes. And just, giving him his flowers. He probably is, like, besides Bill Mallory, the most successful IU head coach. It's probably, if we did a Mount Rushmore, probably Lee Corso, Bill Mallory. I'll throw Tom Allen in there, and then Cignetti.
Coach Hep. No, you got to put Hep.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the guy. Yeah. R.I.P.
You can't. I love Tom Allen. You can't put Tom Allen on that.
Hepner never got to. We never got to see full Hepner though. That's the issue. Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, him being back on campus for a real IU game day, not just the Thursday night Ohio State, which was my first ever football game at IU. Having that happen, I think, was just really big and really, I think, very impactful for a lot of IU football fans. Just having that ambassador, it almost seemed like a passing of the torch. Like we've had that. It's funny, we were so irrelevant and we had that representation for so long, and it never really happened until he's retiring. But it's almost like I feel like Pat McAfee's kind of taken that torch. He's going to be the mouthpiece of IU, at least on that show, which I think is huge. Him marrying into an IU family, so was the best used cars in the town I've ever seen. All right, John. Whatever you say. But yeah, my favorite Lee Corso memory is the I think they're doing like a Stanford Oregon game day, and they're doing picks, and this kid says, "Go Bulldogs." He's picking Yale over Harvard, something like that. And then Lee Corso says, "Not so fast, midget." And then he was like, "What did I say? What did I do?" So that's personally my favorite Lee Corso moment. Obviously, he has plenty of other countless moments, but yeah, love Lee Corso. Yeah. What do you have to say about Lee? I'll let you answer that question. I went on a little tangent with Lee, so.
I was gonna say, didn't he? And I'll get this story wrong, so John will be able to correct me. I hope, but I'm pretty sure when they were playing Ohio State, he like stopped the game in the middle of the game and took a picture in the middle of the field, like he's like first, and then he beat Ohio State, right?
I think they were up. No, that game they were up 7-0 in like the first quarter. He took a picture in front of the scoreboard in front of the entire team, and I don't think they scored another point. I think they lost like 40-7 or something.
No, but you're right. The fact that they were able to bring that team back and have that Lee Corso real life game day moment, because like one of my buddies was able to like get us into the stadium before they opened the gates to go like see what the game day looked like, and like David Pollock's wearing shorts under the desk, and it's like there was no fans behind it wasn't a college game day atmosphere. They were there for Ohio State, and like we saw the result. It wasn't pretty for Indiana football. So to have this, like, he took the pick in the first quarter and they got blown out. Thank you, John.
That's what I just said, John. I'm all over it.
So to actually have like a real, like, because you're right, like the college game day is like the flagship show for college football, and to have Lee Corso, who's like the segment of him putting on the headgear, is just like iconic, and you have that representation that you can't access at all for years until the guy's literally not going to be there anymore. So to have that one moment, that's a special moment. Like I go back and I find the McAfee like WWE style promo he cut where the fans are going, "The great state of," and the entire crowd is going, "Indiana." Like it was, so that was really special. So to get that connection moment, like you said, to the past, very cool. But yeah, I'm the other than that, there aren't really many Lee Corso Indiana moments for me to remember. None of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as a college football fan, I'm a fan of the guy. I really like, he was entertaining as all hell, and they're obviously the show is going to be missing an element when he leaves. So,
did you know? Okay, who are the two co-leaders for interceptions all time at Florida State?
Where did this question come from?
It's related because the answer is Deion Sanders and Lee Corso. They are tied for the all-time leader as the all-time leaders in interceptions at Florida State. I don't know if that record's been broken.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is my Lee Corso fact of the day. That's my.
You know who else is incredible, Brad? You know who else is incredible, Brad? Ro Hardy and Curt Cignetti went out of his way to say so.
Good transition there. A+.
Thank you. He said this is where he talked about Rose starting the second half of last year, basically in the 3 linebacker package. Said he started all spring, very similar to Mendoza, took a leap in recent scrimmages. He's a guy they're really counting on. And then he just goes out of way to say he's got a lot of talent. And that's not something like, it's a phrase Cignetti will use. He used it again describing Byron Baldwin Jr. later in the press conference, but that's not one he just throws out there. Like he doesn't just say everybody has talent. Like you actually have to show the guy something before he's going to acknowledge that level of ability. And like we'll get to Aiden Fisher in a little bit, but like very similar to the way you view Ro Hardy, like the guy just is in the right spot at the right time all the time.
It's the greatest football player I've ever seen. I mean, it's just, I want to put Bones Jones in my one slot, but it's really hard when he's up against Roe Hardy, who seems to be, it seems like, I saw this funny tweet. Someone was like, it feels like he gets a turnover in 30% of his snaps, which is like an insanely high clip. But yeah, that's what it feels like. Always the right place, right time, crazy instincts, obviously undersized. We love him. We're going to get 3 more years of him. Yeah, these are the types of guys that, you build programs off of. You get 4 years of Roe Hardy kind of, instilling the program in that linebacker room at least. I mean, that's just stuff you just can't. That just doesn't show up on the stat sheet. It's clearly a guy that coming from a naval preparatory school, probably, I imagine, I don't know this guy. He's probably super disciplined. He's probably, just crazy talented, obviously, but just like very, there's a reason, why he's doing everything right. He probably does. He probably lives it, and I think he's just one of those guys. Excited to see that. Yeah, the greatest football player I've ever seen. Just unfortunate that he's 5'11", 225. I don't know how his NFL dreams are going to come to fruition, but hey, he's been doubted. 0-star recruit, been doubted his entire life. I bet it. Yeah, I think I made this prediction. Like he goes undrafted and then like makes a 53 man. Like that's how I see Roe Hardy's career going. But he's gonna be like all conference in like a couple years.
Guy's just good at football.
Oh, yeah.
They also asked Sig about EJ Williams. Sig talked about there are really only 3 vets returning in this wide receiver room, that being EJ, Coop, and Surratt. Talked about everybody playing the slot except Charlie Becker. He talked about Becker and LeBron Bond making progress. Also mentioned Davion Chandler coming in terms of wide receiver help. So again, another guy in the slot who we didn't mention earlier, but Davion Chandler obviously hasn't been on campus, so I haven't really gotten my opportunity to speak about him on this show specifically. Go, just if you just want to have some fun, go watch Davion Chandler senior season highlights. Like
we might be okay at the slot. Just put it at that. We might be okay.
The guy's a freak, man. Like
we need him. Oh yeah, we got something.
He makes some of the craziest catches. He's built like he's 6'1", 205, I think. I might be selling him an inch short. Like he is every bit like he's guys, go watch the dude play football, man. Like Davion Chandler is a really legit football player. So again, a freshman who I don't want to put too much expectation on, but at least physically seems like he's going to be able to step in right away and make an impact. And again, not the first time that Cignetti's gone out of his way to mention him.
Yeah, agreed about Davion Chandler. Quick note though, I find it funny about the comment like everyone's playing the slot except for Becker. So that's literally EJ, Coop, and Surratt, which we've talked about, and then it's Kendrick and Bond. And then Becker, like those were the only healthy receivers during spring, apparently. So fun stuff going because Chandler's not on campus yet. So those are the only guys.
But then on EJ Williams, Sig just said the biggest thing for him is to limit the mental lapses because he talked about his size, he talked about his body control, his ability to high point footballs. He said he's a threat. The guy is just a threat. And if they have a healthy EJ Williams this year, like you look at the one thing they were kind of missing in the wide receiver room last, I guess it was kind of twofold because they had speed, but they didn't really have like that game breaking, like put a defender on his heels type of like, I'm afraid this guy's going to run by me. But they also didn't have that like 6'2", throw, like almost what they wanted Donovan McCulley to be before he just didn't have any interest in being a part of the program. But like they were missing specifically EJ Williams. Like this, they were missing a freaky jump ball athlete, possession style receiver. Like the dude has a ton of ability, a ton of talent. His biggest battle is going to be staying healthy. And if he stays healthy, like I think Jamie said this last week on the show, but his last 5 or 6 Big Ten games, just 5 catches, 60 yards, like highly productive, tons of talent, played a ton of football. The guys in the room love him. Like he's going to be a huge piece this year. They're going to really need him. Yeah.
EJ Williams is like everything everyone thinks Donovan McCulley is, but like,
I don't want to like,
I'm not trying to bash on him.
That's not my, that wasn't.
I think him moving a receiver was the worst thing to ever happen to him. I talked to Jamie Jordan about this off show, but dude should have stayed at quarterback. 6'5", can run, can throw. Like, what are you doing moving him to receiver? I always thought that was a crazy move when I saw that happen. Anyways, like super sad that happened to McCulley. Anyways, moving on. EJ Williams is like the concept that everyone thought McCulley was going to be. That's what EJ Williams is. The reason why he's not been on the field is those mental lapses that you were talking about. It's not something that's going to get you on the field in a Cignetti program. So hopefully in year 2, you can figure it out. Really fighting for this kid. I hope he really pans out because Like it looks like we really need him to. It seems like he's the kind of one of like 3 key players to where it's like we need him to really like of the question marks, obviously, need him to really come into his own and fill in a role.
Absolutely. They asked Sig specifically about a lot of the young guys, the freshmen. He said all the freshmen have a long way to go. A lot of the guys have a lot of growing up to do, typical with freshmen. He also, I can't remember if it was in this presser or the last presser that he did, but kind of talked about the difference between like this, like you said last week, this is the first year of like the non-COVID fifth year rule. So you're really, instead of talking to 23, 24, 25-year-old men, you're talking to 17, 18-year-old kids who are still developing into young men. And so it's funny to listen to not just Sig, but Carter Smith and Aiden Fisher talk and D'Angelo Pons talk about the young guys and the attitude coming into spring versus the attitude they have coming out of spring. But specifically, he shouted out Bonds gives a good effort day in, day out. He had a really good spring. And he said Byron Baldwin flies around. He's got lots of talent and good ball skills. Again, that lots of talent phrase doesn't throw it around a lot, puts it on guys that earn it. Like Baldwin, it's going to be a guy to watch this year for sure.
Yeah, tell me something I don't know. We know about Bond and we know about Baldwin.
And then he said, obviously, all the freshmen who come in to spring, they're still kind of learning and developing and getting into the groove of things. When those guys come back in the fall, you see a big jump with those guys. So, like I read off the list of 30 plus guys, freshmen and redshirt freshmen that are on campus this spring. Hugely impactful for both their development and Indiana's development as a team.
100%. I've said this myself multiple times.
On the linebackers, I know we beat it to death, but I'll just say it because you said it. Fish, Jones, Hardy are obviously and Fish and Hardy are the two ones. Jones right there when you're doing third linebacker packages, but he did acknowledge they need more depth at linebacker. And then they ended his presser by asking him, they said, it seems like you have more playmakers this year. And he said, either we have better playmakers or we have guys that can't tackle on defense. And it was the first time I'd really seen him like laugh or get excited or show a ton of, not that he was like in a bad mood at this press conference, but like he laughed out loud at that one. So that tells me that, yeah, he acknowledges the fact that there are a lot more playmakers in this room. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, it's a lot of reasons to be excited for Hoosier fans out there.
Well, I just wanted to address Abel and PK talking about McCulley a little bit, like why that didn't work out. He did have the concussion, but like before that even happened, it was like they're like forcing him finding ways to get him on the field. He wasn't getting a ton of snaps before that. I don't think he was really fitting in. I think we've talked about like the blocking downfield aspect. That was one of the strengths of IU's team last year from the wide receiver room. Their ability to block downfield. Everyone did it. That was on the field. McCulley being that quarterback convert, didn't have to learn blocking in high school. Didn't have to do all that stuff because when you're a receiver in high school, you were doing blocking drills. That is something that you do, at least at a real program. So he's learning all that stuff for the first time, and it really is a hard, like, blocking in the open field is not an easy thing to just kind of pick up. Like that takes a lot of practice to really nail that down because DBs are twitchier than like D linemen that are right in front of you. You got to block a DB 5 yards down the field, easier said than done. So it takes a lot of coaching to get that done. So I think, with McCulley, I'm not trying to bash him, but like, he's on Michigan, and we'll see how he does.
It's not like he's in a bad spot right now, but it's also, if you look at the spot he was in 2023, it's not like he's asked to do a whole ton besides run down the field and catch footballs. If you really go back and look at a lot of his highlights, it's run straight, we'll throw the ball up to you. You're typically going to be bigger than the guy covering you. You go make plays. When Cignetti and staff came in and they bring in 8 really polished wide receivers that are all good route runners, gritty, work hard, block, are picking up the system, and you have a guy like Donovan McCulley who has the raw tools, but technically needs a lot of work and refinement. There was no way for him to get on the field last year. EJ Williams, while healthy, had a tough time getting on the field last year because of the depth they had in that room. And EJ is in terms of a polished receiver, is a much more polished receiver than McCulley, much less to learn, much less to figure out. And so with the way the team was set up last year, they really didn't have, I don't want to say they didn't have time for developing that style of wide receiver, but that development didn't need to happen on the field for Indiana because of the guys they had in front of them. And so if you're McCulley and you're like, I'm not even playing here, like I get it from both sides. I don't love it because if you look at the position EJ Williams is in this year, like he's going to be relied on heavily. There's no doubt somebody like Donovan McCulley would have been in a much better situation this year, given the depth in that room and the fact that he would have had a year to learn under Shanahan and Cignetti. But it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, he made a decision he felt was best for him, and we move on.
Let's not forget how McCulley kind of left Indiana. I would say he didn't necessarily leave with grace. He had a lot of social media activity. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. And I'm not, if you're going to play that game, I'll play too. I'm not,
no, I don't.
If you want to take shots
no games,
at IU after losing to Ohio
no,
State,
no.
if you want to take shots at IU for losing to Ohio State, go ahead. I'm here to play. I'm here to play, Donovan. That's all I'm going to say.
Appreciate
when do we play Michigan this year? I don't think we get them this year. Damn. Oh,
yeah,
he's scared. He's scared. He saw the schedule. He's like, okay, I don't have to play D'Angelo Pons and them boys over there because they would sauce me up like they did in practice.
Clamped.